Hello and welcome to StoryFellas, the podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
And today we're talking shorts.
We're talking shorts. Bart Simpson, eat my shorts.
Yes. Specifically just that part of The Simpsons. That's what this whole hour is going to be about.
The lore of The Simpsons here. No, we were talking about short films specifically.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what you told me we're talking about, unless you have something else.
That is what we're talking about. We're discussing short films. This is a discussion episode because we love short films. We have both been parts of short films before. There's a lot to discuss, and I figured let's talk about it. Let's get into it. So people who are listening, if a short film is like a normal film but shorter, they tend to be like it is funny because there's like quite a range of what a short film could be, because a short film could be 1 minute or it could be, I don't know, 20 minutes. Would you call a 20-minute thing like it's still a short?
I think the Academy Awards says like 40 minutes is a short film. So anything over 40 minutes is a feature, whatever that means. But I would never watch
a small feature too.
Yeah. Well, I know that like the Academy past couple of years, this was like maybe 5 years ago, there was one that was about like 37 minutes. And that's just a cardinal sin in the world of short films, especially since short films tend to play in festivals mostly. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not really distributed anywhere. You can put them up online, obviously, but if you want, some sort of clout because of it, you get into certain festivals, and festival programmers are not looking to book your 38-minute film about suicide or something. They want 5 minutes or less even. Then they can book a bunch of them. So that tends to be what you see lengthwise is way shorter than the maximum.
Yeah, I actually think I like a real short film because it's an exercise in restraint. It's seeing how efficient you can be with a little amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of leads us into one of the first questions I have is, Zach, what do you like about short films and why do you think they're important to our media climate?
I think I like them a lot. There's at least within the past 10 years been, I feel like, a kind of an explosion of short films. Short of the Week is a website I go to pretty often, and pretty big people make short films from time to time. It's a place where there's a lot of creative freedom. So if you want to make one, if you've never made a film before, you can do whatever you want. You can make a film about whatever you want, and it's just got to be within a reasonably short amount of time. So it is also kind of inherently a breeding ground or like petri dish of creativity, because you usually have less resources to make it. The famous people who make shorts, the one I just said, like the 38-minute one that won an Oscar, which I think was about a suicide hotline. I can't remember the actress's name, but she was in the Shape of Water. Anyway, short films are super useful in terms of teaching you as a filmmaker and just trying things out and experimenting, because they don't really have the same kind of expectations that a feature has. So you can just get in there and mess it up, do whatever you want, man. That's my personal draw to them. I've got a bigger background in short film, but we can wait to get into that. I wanted to hear what your answer to that question is first.
Oh, I hate short films. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Good.
Actually, I really like short films. One, because I said it's kind of, you have to be efficient with it. We'll get into how the story structure, it follows normal story structure, but sometimes when you're telling a 3-minute story, you kind of have to cut off the beginning and end, and you just start in the exciting part. But I think of it is if you can make a good short film, it hints that you could make a good longer film. Yeah. Because if you make a bad short film, why would I trust you to make a much longer thing? So it's like it's just really distilling your skills and like how efficient you can tell a story in its smallest form. So, but yeah, I want you, Zach, to tell a little bit of your backstory, because when you say that, you're not bluffing. You actually have a pretty good backstory when it comes to short films.
I thought this was going to be the first question. That's why I was kind of gearing up for you to introduce me as like kind of a like a big deal.
He's a professional. He's a professional. He's a big deal, guys.
I'm a big fish in a small pond.
He's the big short.
I am the big short. So what Tommy's referring to is I was going to Georgia Gwinnett College, middle of nowhere commuter school, and this traveling film festival came to my school. It's called Campus Movie Fest. And this is when I wanted to be a comic book artist. I was like dead set on that. I was just knocking out some core classes. And this festival shows up and they give you a week to make a movie. They give you free gear. They're awesome. I love them. And my friend and I, we did it. And we realized we're actually really into this, really into filmmaking. We ended up winning at our school for this first short film that we made. And then it went on to their national awards. So all the schools kind of competed locally. And then the ones that won at the school would go on to compete nationally. And we were nominated for Best Story for a film called A Boy and His Bike. And that's a whole big thing. We might get into like the making of it and all the cuts and bruises and stuff like that. But that really gave me, it's kind of the worst case scenario is that you have some sort of success first thing when trying something out. And then it really colors your expectations going down the road. So it's been another like 12 years since then that I've just floundered in my career. I ended up on this podcast. I'm burnt out, blown out like writer. I can't even string a sentence together. But here I am, Campus Movie Fest, Georgia Gwinnett Best Picture winner.
The champ.
The champ. That's me. Oh. No. No. It's funny.
Worship me. Yeah. Worship me.
As far as student films are concerned, I am God. I say that every time I return to Georgia Gwinnett College campus, which is quite often, actually. No, I ended up doing it again with my friend. I had to kind of twist his arm because we did it and we got a lot out of it. It was like, cool, we get to go to California for their kind of Oscar type big ceremony thing. We didn't win Best Story, but it was a cool ride. We ended up doing it again the next year, and they had a specialty category for Best Crime Drama. And so we kind of leaned into it. This is at the height of Breaking Bad, and we were both really into it. So I shaved my head and had some fake tattoos, did my best Jesse Pinkman. Like, yo, Mr. White. Anyway, that's not very good, but you get the gist. I didn't have to speak any lines, really. We kept them both pretty silent, but we ended up winning that specialty category. So I got 10 grand to split with my best friend at the time. And man, it was awesome. It was awesome. We poured all of that, every last cent into another short film, which was kind of my film school. So I obviously have a big background in short films. Even bigger than that, I went on to work for Campus Movie Fest. So I became a tour manager and a judge. So I've seen tons of short films, and I consider that my true education, is just watching bad things and people's first outings. You see the common ditches that people fall in and whatnot. And so, yeah, I've got like a joke that I think you've probably heard a million times, but when you were watching these films, you'd go to all these different schools and you judge them, and you have like a scorecard or whatever, quality, whatever, costumes, whatever the thing we were scoring them on. But we would see so many of the same things, so many people trying to do the same story thinking they were original. So they would do something about time travel or something about suicide, because the films had to be 5 minutes or less. And so they just thought time travel was so cool to explore. And then suicide was something that like heightened the stakes. I only have like 2 actors. What can I do? It's like, oh, I want to kill myself. That's deep and edgy. And so I had seen so many of these films. So I've seen, like I said, I've been in that infrastructure of this festival, traveling around, seeing kids, talking to kids about how to make their own film. And that was really cool. But I've hung that up. It was too much traveling for a married man to do. So I was like, I'm out of here. But I recommend it to folks.
To watch a million short
films?
That
I was going to say, not lobotomize yourself with short films. I think that was just a workplace hazard for me. But to make your own, and if you're in college, to do Campus Movie Fest. I think it's all online now since COVID too, so it's a little bit easier to participate. But it makes you just super resourceful, and I think that's any short film in general. So. Yeah, that's my, I'm kind of like I said, a little bit of a celebrity. What's funny is there's this one time I came back to my hometown and I was at this Steak and Shake. We're a little bit in the Zach story hour, so I apologize, but we're doing like
I like hearing it. This is your backstory.
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of a story theory episode here where we're kind of, we're playing with different formats for StoryFellas. But I came back and I had went to the Georgia Gwinnett Campus Movie Fest finale at the school. And I had left the school years before. And so I was just like coming back to support it and see some friends of mine. And I was sitting down at this table and everybody had kind of gone to Steak and Shake, like most of the participants. And it was like a couple hundred people, not at Steak and Shake, but just in total participating. But the place was packed and I'm just minding my own business, talking to my friends and stuff. And I hear, "Is that Zach Lovelace?" And I turn around and I'm like, "What?" And there's this kid who was like wearing a suit and he'd been at the premiere and he's like, "Dude, you like won it 2 years in a row at the school and then you just disappeared, man. Like, where did you go?" And it was like this big mystery to him. And it's kind of like that episode of Seinfeld where there's like the Bizarro Jerry. So it's like the inverted group of friends that there's like, they have their own like versions of Kramer and Elaine and George. And it's like, you look down the table and it's like, there's me, my friends and stuff like that. And they're Zach Lovelace. And I'm like, just living my life, doing my thing, don't even register as a Z level celebrity in any way. So it was just funny. I didn't know how to handle it. I was just like, yeah, man, I just like didn't pick up school again. And I just wanted to work and that was it. And then I dropped out of school formally. So here I am. And I hope he's listening to this podcast.
He's like, he's shouting me out, man.
You're a god.
That's really cool.
You're a god. And I'm like, buy me a milkshake.
Obey me.
Yeah.
Buy me a milkshake.
Bow down then. No, I am not a god, and I do not endorse any god-like behavior from human beings.
Well, that's funny. When you were telling the story, I was right on the edge. And I'm like, I think this is a true story, but you're telling it in a way that you would make this up. Also, where it's like, and then this kid came in, and he was like,
no,
he worshipped me.
Well, that obviously. I mean, I'm just being funny about it. Like,
but it's cool. It's cool that you got recognized. It does sound like you kind of just hit it out of the park right from the start.
That's and you really quickly, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to that to some degree, of like trying something out and being like okay at it, and then the next time you try and do something, which I get the second time we won a bunch of money or whatever, but like the real first short film again, I'm
like, this is easy. This is so easy.
No,
I'm winning so much money.
I knew how to think like the Campus Movie Fest judges. And knowing and there's a whole thing. They made us vote on Facebook for the best crime drama. And so there was this big kind of rivalry between us and another film called Hacked. And it was all about, because initially the category was best cyber crime drama. And this is a little bit of the Mandela effect. They scrubbed the internet of that. They made it just best crime drama because they didn't get enough entries that had cyber elements to them. And so it was sponsored by Norton Internet Security, which is, again, the only real evidence that I have that it was cybercrime. Because, like, why would Norton do something that's just crime drama? That doesn't make sense. So anyway, ending up working for them was interesting because I'm like poster child kind of participant. And then I get the backdoor look and I'm like, oh, that makes total sense. Like, I knew exactly how you guys did this. Like, I was intuiting that you were just trying to legitimize yourselves. And so if I gave you something that took itself somewhat seriously, that it would work. And it did.
Nice.
So anyway, again,
I like it. A little bit of that's Zach's our resident professional on short films.
Not anymore. I'm retired. I don't make them anymore. I don't do it.
It does make me think how you say it. There's all these tropes with early films because there really are. And that's everywhere. Even in my film school, we would do these cycle projects where they were, I guess you could call them shorts. They were like barely shorts because some of them were silent. Some of them were a minute long, but we had, it was actually really interesting because we had a group that we would through the semester would be our team, our like little mini crew. And we would rotate, like we would write scripts, bring them in, decide on one to write or one to perform, and then we would try to cast it with students and then film it, and it was real just paper clips and gum level.
I'm sure stuff. That's the fun part of it,
but though. it is funny because there was one that I think it was me and my friend Ephraim, where one of us wrote it and one of us directed it, and I can't remember which was which. I think he might have wrote it and I directed it, but we got the opportunity to like do these like green screen backdrops on them, and it was basically the gist was that it was this dude who kept going on dates, but then we like made I think I directed it because I did it very Edgar Wright-esque.
Mm,
So each of the dates were themed. So like they'd be in a red restaurant and the girl wore a red dress and they all the food was red on the table. And
nice.
then same with a blue girl and a green girl. And it was all very fun, but it was just like really goofy, like light stakes where like the guy like he's like the date and it's like he's narrating himself.
Hmm.
He's like the date was going great until, and then like he had this dramatic like get up from the table and then it cuts back to him narrating. He's like, I peed my pants in the middle of it, and like that was the crazy
Yeah.
thing that happened. He peed his pants, but then everyone else that week or that little session did dark, brooding, suicide
Oh, dude. Yeah.
sketches, and to the point that so many people did it, the professors had to address it, and they're like, guys, we're going a little like the content's going a little south, and we just want to address that. And the running joke was it was our P sketch that they're talking about. Like everyone else did these suicide
But that
dramas,
was,
and they're
yeah.
like, they're talking about yours. We're like, yeah, shouldn't have put that P joke in. It really upset the professors, that P joke.
That's cool though.
But it is funny that
You got like a little bit of an incubator and could see each other's work, um, like over and over and over
yeah,
again. I think that's super important.
yeah, it was cool, and it was I feel like the tricky thing is like writing. Like I think a lot of the times the scripts would either be mine or my friends because there'd just be it's like the scope of the thing is also a thing because we had
Mhm.
someone in our group that would wrote something and it was like a cool fun story, but it like involved like a little ant, and then it'd be like, and then we zoom in the ant and the ant turns and it winks at camera and it says something, and it's like this
Mm.
like level of like we don't even know how to execute all this stuff, or
Yeah.
it's like takes place in Aladdin, like Egypt or something like, or
Yeah.
like some sort of distant place, and we're like, we have my apartment, that's the extent of what we can do.
Mm.
So we'd have to just be clever, but it was
Yeah. I love again, the resourcefulness is what that teaches you. And that's something that
mhm.
I think is really attractive to someone who might actually give you money to make a feature or a TV show or something, is like, I'm going to bootstrap it. I'm going to make it as cheap as I can, and be creative about it. I think that's awesome. And it makes you more like, it's fun where okay, how am I going to tell the story about an ant? Well, maybe I can do paper cutouts. Maybe I can do stop motion. Like,
Yeah, looking back, actually, I think it would be great to take those scripts. Like, I
mhm.
think we just lacked confidence at the time, but take those scripts and make costumes, like rudimentary costumes, and
Yeah.
act out like, because no one was doing that. No one was doing anything crazy or puppets or anything like that.
Yeah.
So there was, but you learn, you grow, you come up with better ideas, you come up with
Yeah.
better locations too.
And kind of to that point, I feel like animation and shorts go so well together.
Mhm.
Going off
Yeah.
of you saying like puppets and I was saying stop motion or whatever, but yeah, like we were talking off mic about Smiling Friends, and how each
Yep.
episode is 10 minutes, and it's like, that show's fun. And I mean, it's violent, but that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
I quite like that. I like that better than I like Family Guy or something. Something that's just crude.
Yeah, it's
Um,
just very unique. For those who don't know Smiling Friends, I think you can watch it on Max and Adult Swim. It's an
I
adult
watch stuff on
cartoon. They're like,
YouTube, so just clips of it.
oh yeah, there's tons of clips on there if you want to see some clips. It's a little violent. There's a little language, but it's just a very unique world of these guys who are trying to make people smile, and then things always go south and
Yeah.
sideways and really bad, and they have to deal with it.
Yeah, it
Which,
seems right up our alley in terms of humor. Like just
yeah,
absurd, ridiculous characters who just like don't make any sense. Um,
yeah, and it's
you're
also
putting it in my
very
brain, man. You're putting it in my brain, man. That guy.
yeah. It's like, what you doing, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, the people who listen to Smiling Friends and this will know exactly what we're talking about. I also like that it's very dialogue driven too. There's like a lot of
Yes.
moments, and I've heard one of the creators talk about this, where there are these colorful, absurd, crazy cartoon characters, but then they might just be talking about who left the spoiled milk in the fridge, and there's like a 5-minute conversation of
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
having a normal person conversation, and getting frustrated and mad at each other. And I love that. I love this just like real true to life dialogue
Yeah.
that anyone would have.
But in the mouths of these characters that look like weird Dr. Seuss type
Yeah.
beings.
Yeah, they're like these crazy, wacky characters, but then you have this really grounded. And Joel Haver was in one. I don't know if you saw that clip.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, he features. He's a character. It's like it's him in his animation style and as
That's
a
awesome.
character, and it's like him. You have to if you type in "Smiling Friends" Joel Haver, I'm sure you'll find it.
I'll find it. Yeah. No, we both love Joel Haver too. Speaking of shorts, I mean, YouTube is
he makes a
sketches
lot
and
of
shorts.
shorts.
Like, you know, he calls them shorts. A lot of people on YouTube do, you know, make one short a week kind of thing. Is what he was doing for a long time. And now I think he's making a feature a month or something crazy this year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Up in the game here,
himself.
but it's I just love it. And his animation thing that he figured out, it's so genius. Like to be able to that's the key of resourcefulness. He like created a brand for himself based on that thing. Not that his like real life sketches weren't funny and enough to probably boost him over time, but I think that just took him to the next level.
Well, he's the first to do it, and now everyone who does it, because there's a lot of other people who do it more than he does, but everyone knows it's like, oh, that's his style.
Yes,
that's
the Joel Haver style.
He does. Yeah. But speaking of YouTube, I did have that question for you because there's a ton of stuff on YouTube. What is there a distinction in your mind between what makes a short film and what just makes like a YouTube sketch, or are they all? Is it just semantics?
Yeah. I definitely think there is a distinction. I think shorts, while it's like blending now, and it's certainly just like TVs are acting like movies and movies are acting like TV, and there's all sorts of, you know, podcasts or radio shows again. Lots of stuff is kind of in flux right now. I do think that there is a slight distinction that a YouTube video can be low budget on purpose, whereas a short, it can too, but I think it has to take itself a little bit seriously, even if it is a comedy, that it assumes a more serious technical presentation. That might be the only distinction, even though I've seen people who make comedy shorts on YouTube that are really high quality. I don't know how they do it. You know, they must have like a whole film crew that lives in their house. Because we've dabbled in that. We've done some fun stuff and made some YouTube videos, sketches, whatever it is. And yeah, I definitely don't consider those on the same level as shorts. A lot of them, especially comedy ones, are more improv. You can tell that with Joel Haver, where you know you're just riffing the whole time and they edit it together. That's the fun part. It actually is when you do improv and then editing it together, because you can make people say like the craziest things and have the craziest reactions, and that just makes me die laughing.
Yeah, I feel like there might be something to, and I think to one degree it might be semantics. If someone makes a video on YouTube and calls it a short film, it probably is a short film. But I think short films almost have to go through the story circle a bit more. There needs to be a little bit of a journey where a lot of YouTube stuff is just a joke. It is just a singular joke wrapped up in a bigger scene.
That's a skit or a sketch.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not really like a journey as much as, hey, here's this funny thing, and we wrapped it in a situation for you to watch and people reacting to it. And that's like a lot of Key and Peele is like that, which you could say that those are short films too, but a lot of them are sketch comedy because it's a small moment of time that's centered around one joke. Oh, this guy doesn't understand this. Oh, this character is very this.
I agree.
Or something like that.
That's a really good distinction, I think. And I mean, I would just recommend that people make both, obviously. Like in the
I'm not being critical. I like both of them. I love sketches. I love short films.
I almost go to YouTube just purely for that kind of thing. I don't really go looking for shorts. Like sometimes I do. There's some shorts channels like Omeletto and a couple of other places that have gotten big just airing other people's shorts, and they get them submitted to them. It's not like they're stealing them. And so that's a pretty cool spot, but that's not usually, I don't think I click on that in my feed, you know, just thinking behaviorally about these types of content.
Yeah. It's almost like you're like shopping. It's what are you shopping for? Because if I'm looking for short films, I'll go to Short of the Week or Vimeo or something like that.
Vimeo
it
for
feels
sure.
Like
yeah.
You're going to this specific supermarket because it's got this specific product, but YouTube's a bit more for that quick and casual. Yes. I'm not really looking to watch a super long sometimes I stumble across one. I know Olin Rogers has made some pilots and stuff, and I watched his
Yeah.
recent animation Godspeed, which was really cool. But you have to kind of be in the mood because YouTube's kind of built on, oh, it's just quick and light, and you don't have to commit a lot of time to it.
Yeah, and I will listen or like tune into someone like you said, Olin Rogers or Joel Haver. I will go to their page or I follow them and then they make shorts. I'm not like just looking for shorts. If anything, animated shorts, kind of going back to the Smiling Friends thing, that's what I will click on on YouTube. Something that has some level of quality to it. Meat Canyon is another one where he makes like kind of the gross.
Meat Canyon has some good. They're good, but they're gross, but they are cool.
Yeah, it's got the ugly animation thing.
There's that one dude that made the playground animation.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
Like.
Yeah. I thought that was cool. Again, I feel like I learned the wrong skills professionally, like as a filmmaker, to just establish a reputation for myself. If I could just be in a room and just animate something like that would be amazing. Instead, I became a stupid writer.
No, hey, you need both. You need both, man.
That's
the guy I'm talking about, y'all. I'll try to put the link in our show notes, but his name's Rodrigo Sousa. He made this one trailer called Playground. It's kind of this animation. It kind of looks like Adventure Time meets Studio Ghibli horror a little bit.
Yeah, like cosmic horror kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's even something after the fact that I was like, kind of turns me off. Is just the juxtaposition of like kid stuff and horror. I don't know, man. I mean, I know I get it.
But yeah,
it's effective though.
But the animation style itself though is really good. Like he makes a really good animation style. And I don't know if I needed to send you these, but he made 3 shorts for Adult Swim also. That's in his style. Yeah, they're again horror shorts. So it's cool if that's your cup of tea. But it's one of those things that I really appreciate the style, even if I'm not necessarily in love with the genre behind it.
That's why I love Adult Swim. You know, I love it and I hate it, I guess I should say. Being from Atlanta, you know, they are something that I'm very proud of. But also for them to be like, hey, this guy got it big on YouTube for this one video. Let me reach out to him. Do you want to do something? That's so cool. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like they're kind of a little bit like the A24 of casual comedy, you know? Like they're just opening doors for if you have a cool idea, they're down to see what you want to do, which I really like.
Yeah, because I've seen them do that a couple of times. I can't remember the exact scenarios, but to hear that about the Playground guys, so cool.
Yeah, but coming back to what you're saying about animation, I've been thinking more and more about this, maybe because I've been watching some Smiling Friends, but animation opens so many doors because you're telling part of your story just through a different visual that is not normal. Because I'm like, oh, I could write a short film about this.
There's literally a dead fly in my beer.
Okay.
If you think I'm lying, there he is.
I was just like, I could hear the
I'm like,
spitting.
what to do
what
here?
Is happening?
What to do here? It was the last swig. I'm like, glug, 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 you know, and I feel it in the back of my throat, and I'm like, that's disgusting.
I was wondering. I was like, you can't handle the last of your beer.
Sorry, folks. Sorry, I just swallowed a fly. Almost swallowed.
I think that might be a clip we pull. Man,
I'm glad I could suffer for comedy's sake. I'm gonna get like fly flu now. I'm gonna be like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly.
And turn into a big fly.
My fingernails they're full of pus. For those who haven't seen that, actually, this is full circle. He breaks a guy's arm wrestling, and so did I.
Oh man, you are the fly.
I am the
Zach
fly.
The fly guy.
I'm the Brundle fly. I drank a fly out of my Miller Lite. Anyway,
Oh man. Well, what was I
Ooh.
saying? Oh, I was saying the thing before. Do you need a minute?
No, I'm
You
fine.
good?
I'm fine.
Just crying,
I'm okay.
crying in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
The-
what I was saying was animation. Sometimes I think that, oh, I can make this short about this thing, but if I just film it, it's just going to look. And to give credit, you have Wes Anderson stuff, you got Edgar Wright stuff, but it's still people. Whereas in
yeah,
animation, you can make those people look like anything. You can make them like different colors. You can make them scary.
totally.
You can make them colorful. It just opens this whole extra dimension in ways to tell a story. I feel like we
Yeah.
got to get Johnny in here for more animation talk because he's an animator uh,
That's
down the
true.
line.
I've thought a lot about Johnny recently in terms of like animated stuff because I just think there's a production value to it. And I know a couple other guys that I could probably string together to make one animator. You know, but yeah, I feel like my writing style could definitely marry well with something animated. Just knowing again the smiling friends kind of stuff that makes me laugh and comedy too.
Mhm.
Like there's just so much fun where you're not bound by anything. You're bound by some technical limitations, I guess, but you could put it anywhere, dude. Like they could be
Yeah.
anything. That's what's so cool about the Joel Haver thing is that it's like he wants to do something where he's Scooby Doo. He'll just role play with his friends and then turn himself into Scooby Doo in post production. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I think that level of creativity is what's where we are headed in terms of short films and being discovered because that's how Joel built his audience and then ultimately ended up on Smiling Friends. And I'm sure other people have approached him. He's got tons of sponsors, makes a total living doing
mhm.
YouTube. So shorts
Yeah.
are
I
viable for that. I think it's an interesting time for that.
Yeah. It's a short's kind of like a calling card and show what you can do. And speaking of
Yeah,
that, I want to talk about your. Do you want to talk about Nightbird?
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about Nightbird or whatever bird you want me to talk about, man.
Well,
No,
tell me about the evolution because Nightbird is a short film that Zach made.
mhm.
Tell me the jump, the skip and the jump. How did that feel different from Boy and His Bike, like some of the earlier stuff?
That's actually a really good question that I've thought about a lot. Is that because I think about A Boy and His Bike being the first film I ever made formally. Like I played with a camera as a kid, of course, but like set out to make a film, and here it is. That was lighthearted, fun, Americana type story. Like it had heart to it. It's about a man riding a bike, his childhood bike, to the birth of his first child because his car broke down. And
Hmm.
so clearly it's like sentimental and is okay with that type of thing. And then And Demons, the second film, got darker, but again, landed on something somewhat hopeful in the end.
Hmm.
And then finally, Nightbird in that sequence. Nightbird is like I'm genre departure, so we're trying to go for a horror, and also just like full out trying to be dark and gritty. Um, so that was interesting. It fell into the trap of being like 25 minutes long, um, and what I have always struggled with is what to do with my stuff after I make it. Like I'll try and throw it into film festivals, either get in or it won't. Nightbird actually did pretty well on some film, like smaller film festivals, but then it's like, what do I do with it now? I think it's
Hmm.
on Vimeo. If you go to my Vimeo, uh, which Vimeo side point here, I think is like the snooty, hot stepsister of YouTube. You know, emphasis on the snooty, because it's like the short films that end up there. There's a lot of comedy that ends up there, I think now, but even mid 2000 teens, 2010 to 2015 or something, it was just nothing but the snooty stuff. And that's just like, oh, I've got a Vimeo link. Watch my short
Hmm.
on Vimeo. And I think
Hmm.
YouTube has really fought back on that, which is nice because YouTube's the more casual, like, girl next door type. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny because it does feel like Vimeo is a place to take your craft seriously, which is not entirely true because there's a lot of people on YouTube that take their craft seriously. But then
Yeah.
there's also not like there's like people who are
Yeah.
just doing whatever on YouTube. And I feel
Yeah.
like Vimeo is like the fact that you have to probably pay for it and the barrier is a little higher, so it's people
Hmm.
who are naturally going to take themselves a bit more seriously, not in a bad way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I don't say that people shouldn't use it. I think they should. But I don't know Vimeo's future, to be honest. Um, like they do the staff picks and everything. I think that was a good way to get discovered. I can't say I remember anybody that had a staff pick that has gone anywhere. I'm sure it's happened. I know that big people stoop down to, again, like Wes Anderson made a short film last year. I think he won best short at the Oscars. Was a Wes Anderson short. And so, people they do that from time to time. I'm sure that got a staff
Hmm.
pick, you know. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I'm more on the comedy end of the spectrum is what I'm starting to realize about myself. So
Hmm.
Nightbird, to kind of double back on that, is like it made me
Yeah.
realize that was going super dark and serious. I just had a lot more fun on set, like goofing off with people and having the actors
Hmm.
read lines in funny ways. I was like, oh, this should just be a comedy. I think one of the hardest times I've ever laughed was on the set of Nightbird, and it was between the two leads. And basically, I had the man and a woman, and it's a mistress and her lover who's like breaking up with her, and I had him say to her, in a dismissive way, like for their whole relationship, it's like you were my waitress at a Buffalo Wild Wings. That's the line that was written. And
Hmm.
I think that's just a really funny line. You can't say the phrase Buffalo Wild Wings in a serious context without laughing. And so I just died. They kicked me off my own set. They made me leave the room because I was just laughing so hard. Me and the AC were just like sweating, trying not to laugh loud enough. And the actors obviously were mad about it. But yeah, I just think uh, I don't know where I was going with that necessarily, other than just comedy stuff um, is more in my DNA, and so I'm more on Team YouTube because it seems to be more comedy driven than Vimeo.
Hmm.
Vimeo, you're lost. You're lost, Vimeo. Find your way. I don't know. It- they need to. If Vimeo started to do more for shorts, I think that could be cool. Like formally short films and stuff. They might they might be doing that now. I have no idea. Like I said, I don't go on there very often. But if they had their own online festival or something, that could be really cool for discoverability.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not on Vimeo a lot, but maybe they're doing something like that. But I could totally see them like focusing
Yeah,
more on that, trying to. They have to like find their like foster their community. I'm not saying all this as a guy who's not on Vimeo. Maybe they're doing all of
yeah,
this
yeah.
stuff. Guys,
Again,
write us
same.
and tell us what's going on in Vimeo. Send us
All
a
you Vimeo
message and
heads
let
out
us know
there,
how it
let
is
us
over
know.
there.
Yeah, like I want you to show up in the comments. Send me a nasty gram to storyfellaspodcast@gmail.com. Uh, Vimeo's great, and Vimeo's way hotter than YouTube.
Oh, my short film that I did.
Yeah, tell me about your
We talked
shorts, man.
about.
You talked about mine. Come on,
Well, you're the pro, man. You're the pro.
it's true.
M- I made my first short that I made officially that was like mine, written and everything was. Might have talked about it on the show before. Seven Deadly Kin, which is
Mm-hmm.
the family reunion of the seven deadly sins. And they come back, and then envy no longer wants to be a sin. She envies the humans. She's ready to do
Mm,
something different, and that's kind of they're basically gaslighting her. They're like, "This is just your nature. Like you always want something that someone else has. Like you don't actually want this."
that's
And she's
cool.
like, "No, I don't like being this." Um, and it was cool. I think I've told you before that I wrote like a 20-page script. Due to limitations, I had to cut that down to 12. So there was like a lot of backstory that had to get thrown out the
Yep.
window. Um,
You had people asking you about it right afterwards. Like, why didn't you do this?
well, they would, yeah. The thing I say is people had questions. They're like, this was cool because I was very proud technically how it came together.
Hmm.
It's like the cuts came together nicely. It was all like cohesive. It feels a little bit like a student film. It's not to the level I'd want to do today, but
That
it
should
came
be how it
together
is.
solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's my best work. It's never gonna get better than this.
Yeah, yeah. All
Uh,
right. Grow up, graduate already.
but but when I would make that, and we did a showing at the end of the year, and people would have questions. They're like, I'm confused why these characters are acting this way, or this
Hmm.
happened. And I had answers for most of them because it was all in my backstory that I didn't get to actually execute
Hmm.
on. But it's probably for the best. It was going to be a little bloated otherwise. But the
Yeah.
best part of the experience for me was I don't think you've heard about this is I locked down because it was originally going to be in a bar. They were going to meet up at this bar, and the bartender hosted them after they closed
Okay. Yeah.
because they had some deal with the bartender. And they were all this whole scene was their reunion was going to take place at this bar, and I found this bar, and I chatted with them, and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing a student film. This is what I'm doing. Would you guys be interested? Like, can I just use this place after dark? I'd be happy to pay someone to stay here and supervise us or whatever." Like figuring out all that, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, that's great. It's awesome." Signed a contract with them, and it's like
Hmm.
cool. And I've got my actors lined up. I've got all this stuff. I've storyboarded everything, and I've scripted everything, and have my shot list and all of it. And then I think a week and a half before we shoot, I drive by the bar, and they have a big sign, and they've closed. Like they've shut up shop. Like the
Oh,
owner, those guys don't
wow.
own the bar anymore that I made the deal with.
That's
And I was
crazy.
like,
Yeah.
oh shoot.
They're
So
just
then
like,
it was
yeah, man,
like,
sure, you can
I
do
think
whatever
this
you
was the
want, dude.
week
Yeah, yeah, sign a
before.
contract. Come on. Yeah, yeah, man, don't worry about it. And then you're just like, oh, okay, you're closed now. Who was telling me? And like some bartender who like
Yeah.
robbed the place.
It's
I
not
don't
like
even
a
work
gate.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just some
He
drunk
was
that
wearing a
like
ski
jumped the
mask.
bar. Yeah, he's just like pulling out of the tip jar. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. You need a contract? Yeah, write it up.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have a
You're gonna
pen,
be big
kid?
someday,
Yeah, let
kid.
me recite this for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's like,
anyway, the next week, I didn't have time to find a new bar. The next day, I was just messaging Airbnbs like anywhere, and I was
yeah.
just and would explain the message because if you're going to shoot in an Airbnb, you should tell them that you're going to film
Oh,
there.
for
Like
sure.
don't try to be sneaky about it. That's someone's home. If you don't get their permission, it could be bad news. So I
I
was
agree.
messaging people, and I found someone who was saying, "Hey, yeah, we're open." It was like a very interesting house. It was like their guest house. I actually cast the. It was like this older couple, and then the husband. I was like, "You've got a cool look. Do you want to play the homeowner
Oh,
in this
wow.
place?" Like, because
Yeah.
because it changed from the bartender to the homeowner.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh, and
and
he
he
couldn't
was like,
act, I
"Yeah,
bet.
I'll do it." He did fine. Like he didn't really have any major lines. He just had to like open the door, and he was actually pretty good for
Hmm.
his one or two lines that he had. But then so I'm staying at this Airbnb just because the equipment's there and we're renting it. So I'm like, okay, I'll just stay here. Um, and then I'll go. And then most of this happened at night, so we had to film at night. So we had night shoots,
Whew.
and then after the night shoots happened, I would go with my friend Ephraim again because he was my DP on this, and we would go to his basement. We would grab sheets like at middle of the night and get like some chicken wraps, and we would go through my storyboards and re-storyboard everything because all the blocking was like assuming you'd have one
You needed
long
to be in a
bar.
bar, yeah.
Yeah, and now they're not. They're like in a circle in a living room. And so we had to like just do enough of the storyboarding to get our shot list for the next day. Let's sleep a little bit, wake up, get ready, shoot the next thing that we just planned the night
Yeah.
before, and then do it again after every shoot.
But you know what?
And it
Go
was,
ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say it was crazy and stressful, but it was fun. Like those memories of just like problem solving in the
I was going to
11th
say problem
hour
solving.
to
You and I
make it
both
work.
are kind of addicted to problem solving.
Yeah.
You know, got a little broken wing syndrome for like a bad script. Oh, I can fix you, baby. I can fix you, baby. Yeah, yeah. No, I love that heat of the moment. Just where, oh, this just happened. Oh, my actor couldn't do this, or with the, whatever light bulb blew out. We don't have replacement batteries are dead. And, film sets are replete with landmine trials that if you can triumph over them, you feel so good, and have something that you're proud of, obviously. Not just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I survived, but yeah, that feeling of just being able to go hot, and you're in good company too. I think
Mhm.
I was listening to Jaws is probably my favorite movie right now, and I was listening to this interview from Spielberg forever ago, like from forever ago, and he was saying that they would write scenes the night before and then go shoot them, and like or rewrite them. So
That's
you know,
cool.
there's they probably knew more about what the scene was going to be, but like Quint's uh, monologue about being on the USS Indianapolis, that was Robert Shaw. He made that up, like wrote it
Mm.
like the night before. Um, and so, yeah, there's just like that type of stuff. Imagine that, where it's like that's an iconic moment in film, and it made the
Mhm.
movie as weighty and awesome. And that character, you remember him so much. I mean, Robert Shaw is an amazing actor, but like that writing is so good. And so, yeah, I think you're in fantastic company if you were having to fly by the seat of your pants sometimes to make it better. You know, and obviously,
Mhm.
you know, to get back to the quality that you wanted it to be is one thing. Like if you are
Yeah.
like have lost something, but also if you're like, hey, the night before, can we just like maybe add this in here and see if we can't make it work?
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it worked, and I was proud of what we made, and it was fun, and I'm all for. I was like, we have to make it cohesive. Like I need to just. It's always all about coverage. I was like, I can't.
yeah.
I need to make sure I can stitch this thing together and doctor this together. I think you talk about that one in one of your films that you say, oh man, if only I had a shot of that steaming cup of coffee.
Yes.
Like it would have changed the whole.
Yes.
That's
That's
what I was
actually
doing.
just such a huge thing with shorts is that you learn the most fundamental things and they get really burned in your head. Because especially if you're not coming from it again from the ivory tower, like Wes Anderson has millions to make a short. You know, I have
Hmm.
pennies to make a
Hmm.
short. And knowing that for this is the film that my friend and I made that you were referencing, Tommy, called Here the Vulture Waits, another one of my bird movies, that it's like a neo Western kind of thing. It is on Vimeo. And yeah, there's a scene where the main character walks into a diner that has been recently shot up. So he walks in like right after these marauders have kind of come in there, these ghost like guys. And um, it would have just communicated so much to see a steaming cup of coffee because that was what was lost was this sense of urgency, um, that not just urgency but like that the timing of everything had lined up. It also would have stitched together two sequences of where the main character is seeing all the dead bodies and then he sees the bad guys. So there's
Hmm.
maybe one other shot that I thought of coverage wise that I wish we would have had. And that was a close up on him reaching for a gun that isn't there because he's a recently retired police officer. And so he's supposed
Hmm.
to still have that instinct of just like, oh, why he wouldn't have a gun. I don't know. Like, you know, totally retired police officers can have a gun. That's something that only
Hmm.
me as a 30 something year old would ask and actually realize it's like, yeah, he would just have a gun with him, whatever.
The
Um,
police took his gun away when he retired.
yeah, yeah. He's
Couldn't
like, oh,
have
I
it
guess I
anymore.
just will, you know, let people abuse me if they want to kill me, even though I'm retired. But that was the whole thing that the villain uses to piece together that he was a cop. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
you reach for a gun that isn't there. But
Yeah. It's these little, especially in shorts, it's about communicating these things in visuals because, like you said, the steaming cup of coffee is used a lot in movies, but I think it's because it's effective. Whenever that happens in a movie, it gives you that
yes,
immediate tension because you see something hot or steaming and you're like, someone was literally just here and
yes,
they could still be here
yes,
right now.
yes. A tension builder,
Uh,
totally. Yeah, I mean, it's such a mundane thing to shoot
mhm.
to communicate something that heightened. So I think that's cool. But yeah, no, nobody thought about it.
Hey, that's what we live and learn. We figure out what could have been better as we go
Yeah.
about our stuff. But no, it's fun making shorts, and I know you were referencing that we've done some funny things together and made little
Hmm.
shorts in the past, and that's been more in the improv YouTube stuff. But I think we learn something more every time, uh,
Oh
and
yeah.
it all starts on the page, man. Unless you do an
It
improv
does.
thing, but you still have to have
Well,
the
even
idea.
that. Yeah, I've done comedy shorts where I'm just I have a bullet point list of like plot points that need to happen or things that need like this character needs to come to this realization. And so then I'll just
Hmm.
improv until that comes out. And
Hmm.
going off of the coverage conversation with the comedy stuff and improving, I'll just have the person who's not talking just give like a minute of solid reactions to things just silently, and then you can cut that up to anything that you say crazy wise. Oh, that's the beauty of editing and editing
Yeah.
comedy, is that you can make some reaction and interaction that just did not happen in real life.
Hmm.
And it just gives you such a, I don't know, such power, which is fun. But
Hmm.
also just you find laughs in things where it's like, oh, if I just hold this for a second, let there be kind of an awkward silence here, it makes it so much funnier.
Hmm.
And you start realizing there's a lot of power in the pauses and just silence when it comes to comedy.
Hmm.
And that's something, going
Yeah.
back to our original point about first time filmmakers make really serious things. Venturing into comedy, it's taught me more about filmmaking by those types of principles. That, I've seen shorts and features that friends have made where it's nothing but sad, 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 brooding, 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 every scene. And you have no
Hmm.
contrast. And so
Hmm.
by having contrast, you allow the audience to, you are constantly breaking tension and creating tension, whether it's,
Hmm.
funny or scary or whatever, or romantic tension, some type of tension. You're always drawing it tight and then releasing, drawing it tight and then releasing. And you gotta, that does start on the page for sure. Like understanding that you
Yeah.
want these moments and what the actual rise and fall of your
It,
scene.
yeah. I would agree that comedy almost stretches some of those muscles more, because where you're using, uh, you can use the visual in the frame, and this is something I talk about a bunch because uh, Edgar Wright's very good at using the frame as an extra layer of telling jokes and making things funny. But while you can use that to build suspense and tension, but a drama that's doing that's not also going to do that with comedy. Where a comedy like
Mm-hmm.
one of Edgar Wright's movies can do that, it can build tension in the same way, but it can also be used to as a joke, or it could use the same thing that's building tension in the wrong context to make it funny.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
he's
yeah.
building tension in a point that shouldn't be tense at all, and it
Yes.
makes it humorous because it's like, oh, I see what he's doing, and it's definitely not that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
I mean, that's
short.
shorts teach you cinematic language, really, is what we're
Mhm.
talking about. And they also give you space to break it. And I think that's why people come back to them, uh, whoever it might be. I think Jeff Goldblum has won, not to bring him up again. It was either him or Wes Anderson. Those are the two people I'm talking about tonight, apparently. But I think he's won an Oscar for a short. I think he might have produced a short. But it just gives you freedom to go back, and do things and try things out. That's fun. That's cool. I wish there was more of a place for them. And like we've kind of been talking about it. It seems to be changing with platforms like YouTube,
Mhm.
and even something like TikTok. Like I put up a series, like a short series that I made up onto TikTok, and that's probably the most viewed piece of content that I've ever made. If you go to my TikTok, I think it's just at Zach Lovelace. You can find it, and I call it my rewind series. But it's something like 50,000 people total have seen that, and there's tons of comments on it and stuff. I was reading it yesterday, and I was like, "This is funny." I totally ignore this part of the internet, and here it is. Like that's my audience right there. Um, I don't know. I just think that's
It's like when a
wild.
musician gets famous in another country, but
Yes,
no one
yes,
knows them in the
yeah.
States.
Hey, in Poland, I'm a really big deal. Okay.
Are
Yeah.
you Zach Lovelace, two-time
Yeah, yeah.
winner?
And Steak and Shake in like Buford, Georgia. I'm a really big deal. Uh, yeah. Anyway, it's funny. It's funny how that works. Yeah, I'm hoping to outdo that at some point in my career, outdoing my rewind series. But I won't spoil it for you folks. It's a trilogy, so it makes sense in order. And go watch it.
Yep.
It's also on my YouTube, so if we post that up on there. But
Yeah,
shameless plug.
I've got so many links I'm gonna have to add to the thing,
Yeah.
but I'm making note of all of them.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, the Rewind series is cool. You guys should go check it out. It's in probably in the link below, in the link in the bio, or link in the notes,
Yeah.
wherever the link is. Um, but yeah, and I'm hoping that I get the opportunity to do shorts. To do like a nice one, it does take a little time. It takes effort
Mm-hmm.
because, but I'm hoping that I can work something up. I've got some ideas
I was going to
percolating that
say,
I've talked to you about in
let's
the past.
land this plane talking about some short ideas. And these are things that we could, we're kind of breaking our cardinal rule about talking about things before we make them, but maybe just give people an idea of some short ideas that we've been rattling around. We've talked a little bit about stuff we've made, but are shorts even something we're interested in doing still for you?
No, never, never.
Yeah.
No, it's I am like, so here's my thought. It's like I think doing a short sounds cool, but I'm trying to think of like what I'm always thinking big picture of like, oh, is that the direction I want to go? Is it just like pure narrative that I want to go, or do I
Yeah.
want to go more documentary, or do I want to go like try to create something that's a show where you can make a pilot, which a pilot is kind of arguably kind of like a short,
It
but
depends. Yeah, it
a little
depends on the
different.
length. Something like Smiling Friends, 10
Yeah.
minutes. That's really,
Hmm.
for animation, it can be way faster. But yeah, I mean, 21 minutes for a comedy pilot, something like that. But that's kind of changed in the era of streaming now. You could do an hour long
Yeah.
one,
Yeah, it's great. When I found out Smiling Friends was 10-minute long episodes, I was like, oh, I can
Yeah, it's
watch,
like Barry.
like I can get through this. Yeah.
Like Barry's only 30 minutes episodes, and we both
Yeah.
love Barry. We should talk about Barry at some point because it's ended now. I think plenty of people
Yeah.
have covered it, but it is really good and short form comedy that just gut punches you with some drama. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, we should do a Barry episode at some point because I really liked that show and it had an interesting ending. I won't spoil it here. You guys can listen to the Barry episode later.
Yeah.
And but yeah, as far as shorts, do you have anything on the radar that you want to do or talk
Um,
about? Or
yeah. I mean, in terms of
uh,
shorts, kind of like you were saying, I'm thinking more developmentally, like using them to spawn interest in
mhm,
a
bigger
feature, a
projects?
bigger project
Yeah.
for sure. Like that's how I calculated in my head is like, what is it going to do for me now?
Yeah.
And being able to make just a slice of something bigger. I think
Now when you
Whiplash, the movie started as a short, with J.K. Simmons. He initially wrote it.
mhm,
I think Damien Chazelle wrote it as a feature, but then pulled that out, kind of like what we're talking about here, and made it
mhm,
as a short. It got big as a short, and then they made the movie.
that's
Um,
cool.
so
Now,
something
are
to
you
that degree.
thinking the route that like you would make the short just this condensed version of the movie, or are you just thinking like make a good short and that is just the calling card to like make something different, like a different
Oh,
story?
I would probably find some element of a movie and then cut that because then it would be a sales tool at that point. You could show them like, hey, this is the character. This is what it would look like. This is how I would direct
Mhm.
it or whatever. I think I've got a lot of running notes in my phone about shorts. Like I'll just like ideas and stuff, and we can just rattle off some of these um, weirdo ideas. Let's see.
Weirdo ideas from
How
Zach.
old is this? Oh, that's actually not that old. Um, let's see. A horror adventure story about a man and his pet blob.
And his pet blob.
Yeah, and I had a tentative title called Steak and Taters.
Who is who?
I think
Who's who in
Steak's
the
got to be the guy. I feel like Taters is probably not. I mean, maybe that's the guy's nickname or something. Um,
No, you're right. It's gotta be he's the steak.
yeah, and I really
Taters is
like
such a
horror
fun name.
comedy. Shaun of the Dead type stuff. Also, The Mummy
Yeah.
with Brendan Fraser is kind of a high watermark, I think, in terms of like horror adventure. So I think that's where my head was at. But
Hmm.
maybe you'll see Steak and Taters coming down the pike here soon. Yeah, I don't know. Wasn't expecting to have a title on this idea, but there it is.
I think you've got the title. Yeah, steak and
Yeah,
taters. That's perfect.
yeah.
Um, that's funny, man. Well, as before we let our audience go, are there any short films that you like or that you draw inspiration from that you would like to recommend to our viewers?
Yeah. Let me actually pull up. I think I've got a note. So here we go. I've made this note forever ago. This is probably like 3 years old at this point, but I'd been collecting shorts in my head and I was like, I just need to get this out. So, folks, pause it, rewind it, listen to the things. I'm just going to run through this list here. I can't say too much about all of them, but these are shorts that I found inspiring in the genre that they're in. You have Pizza Time by Ryan Pauly. And Ryan Pauly is actually a really great creator out in Texas that Tommy and I both admire from afar. We don't know him, But hopefully one day. But he's always making stuff on Instagram talking about it and whatnot. And his company, I think, is Weekend Video. So check him out. You can go to Weekend Video's website. It's really funny, like action comedy. It's big fight scenes in that one. Next up would be horror, which is a really common genre for shorts. It's really easy to do. It's very low budget. But we have Lights Out by David Sandberg. He actually went on to direct the Shazam movies. So he started his career, directing that short. And I think it was just him and his wife. And there's maybe like 6 shots in the whole thing. But it is super scary. And so it left a mark. Let's see. There's also Monitor by Matt Black and Ryan Pauly. See, Ryan Pauly's popping up again. And again, just great little horror short, one single location. Drama, we have this is actually an oldie. Some folks call it a Slingblade. That was kind of hard to say. French fried taters. That's my Billy Bob Thornton from Slingblade. That was the short film that it was based on. And it's actually really good. It's like 20 minutes long and all black and white from the probably early 90s. And that went on to help Billy Bob Thornton become a superstar back in the 90s. Friday by Laura Moss is really good. Kind of a coming of age story, a little snapshot in time. I won't ruin it, but it's just a really good drama. Destroyer by Kevan Funk is really good. He's a Canadian filmmaker. And it's really moody. If you like moody stuff, I go back to that short pretty often just to get my moody stuff on. It's just amazing cinematography by Benjamin Loeb. Or Ben Loeb. I can't remember which one he goes by, but again, just super great. It's about a hockey player, so it's really kind of subculture-y. Hockey player dealing with some issues. This one is actually a Campus Movie Fest film that won Best Picture of the year that I did it out in California. It's called The Strong One by Nicholas Saylor, and it's all based on a poem that he or maybe a friend of his wrote, and they just recite the poem. And I won't ruin it. It's good, great. It's just an awesome drama. It's got a cool like roadside dinosaur attraction thing in it that they used. Like, owning time and space. That's another thing about shorts is like if you dig into what only you can make, that's really cool and freeing. And that one definitely does that. Comedy wise, we have Thunder Road by Jim Cummings. That one blew up a couple years ago. And Jim Cummings has been in a few things here and there. But it's a one take thing, and it's all his performance. And I won't ruin that one. Science fiction wise, there's Giant God Warrior Appears in Tokyo by Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, which I think are 2 of the creators of Evangelion. Anyway, like I said, I'm just rattling these things off, but there's so much here. That one is awesome. If you like kaiju, we've mentioned kaiju quite often in this show. But Shin Godzilla was a really great Godzilla movie that came out in Japan probably 3-4 years ago. Won their Best Picture for their kind of biggest film ceremony out there, and it's just a great return to form of Godzilla being a bad guy. But it was directed by these guys, and this short helped make that happen. And it's just cool. You got to find the subtitle version though. There's a non-subtitle version that you will have no idea what's going on. Not that you need to. It's a big giant guy, destroying the city. We have several thrillers here. There's one called The Piano Tuner by Oliver Treiner. That is really good. Again, these thrillers are more of like twisty type stuff, especially in the shorts realm. So I won't ruin any of these. Incel by John Marizaldi, who's actually from my neck of the woods. But that one is really good. Let's see. What Happened to Crow 64 by Adam Butcher. This one is a YouTube one. And it is definitely a slow burn, but it is awesome. The guy made his own like N64 game. And I'm trying not to ruin any of these because I can jump into them and talk about them, but they're very, very good. And then Gutters by Matt Black.
Well, Zach, that is quite a list. You prepared way more than I did.
You caught me monologuing. You caught me monologuing.
You caught me monologuing.
Yeah, you did.
But I've actually heard of some of these, obviously, because we know some of these guys. But you're going to give me some content to watch because I will probably go and watch a lot of these short films.
Yeah.
The last few that I want to throw in A couple by Seth Worley, which I know that we are both familiar with as well.
Oh yeah.
He has Old and New is a fun one by Seth Worley. It's
Hmm.
narrated by Patton Oswalt,
Whoa.
which is really fun.
Yeah.
Just kind of this comedy that's very visually engaging about is old stuff better or new stuff better? And feels kind of a mixture of like a modern day Cat in the Hat-esque situation.
With Mike Myers.
I think with Mike Myers. When are we going to do that episode? The Cat in the Hat.
We
Mike
can do our
Myers
Cat in the Hat
episode.
review. Don't worry, I've got things to say about that.
So Old and New. I'll try to link that. It's a fun little piece. I think the whole thing rhymes. I think it's spoken in rhyme, which is
That's
fun.
cool.
Seth Worley also does one called Real Gone that I think we watched back at our old work. I won't really spoil it. It starts out looking like it's going to be a heavy drama, and then it's like, oh, maybe this is a little funnier than I thought, and that's all I'll say. It does have topics of suicide in it, so be warned. But it does transition into something a bit more lighthearted.
Classic short films.
And then one of
classic short films.
Classic
Suicide.
short film. The last one I want to just throw out there that has been kind of one of my favorites for a long time. I need to rewatch it and see if it still stands up, but I love the cinematography in it. And it's called Apricot by Ben Bryand. I think that's how you say his name.
I think I've seen this one.
It's just, I don't know. It's just really pretty. It also feels like it's not like if you look hard enough, I almost feel like you could maybe find some of the things. Like, oh, that it makes it feel approachable. Like, oh yeah, this is another person just making their thing, but it's just really good. It's interesting to me. I think it's very pretty and deals with kind of like flashbacks and looking back into the past, like not time travel, just like people remembering, and it balances those visuals very, very well. So, guys, I will try to link as many of these as I can in the show description. So go check them out, and then send us a message if you can't find them, because maybe
if you want us to watch your short, if you have a short and you want us to review it, we'll do it. I'll give you my 10 cents on it. 2 cents, 10 cents, whatever.
Zach did that professionally in the past, and
I did. That's true. So that's actually, people have paid me money to give my thoughts and judge short films. So, you're kind of dealing with a pro here, and I could maybe help you out. If you want there to be a time travel and suicide, don't send it to me.
Well, I think that's all the time we have, Zach. It's been fun talking shorts with you.
Yeah.
If y'all are listening and you're big into shorts, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. If you're not into shorts, hopefully this has sparked some sort of interest, or you've just learned something that you don't normally think when it comes to short films. But it's been fun. I enjoyed it. Talking with the pro himself here. It's been an honor.
It's me. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
the honor's all yours.
Guys, we will catch you in the next one. See ya. Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to storyfellaspodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.